Welcome to the show, Cherries fans. Welcome to the show, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to new viewers of this channel. Before we get going, please do hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button. It does help this channel to grow. Now, of course, last time out, we played Manchester United in a 2-2 draw with a very contentious penalty decision for Manchester United, which of course equalled the scoring. And then what should have been a penalty going against us in the last minute. Of course, it could have been a penalty for Bournemouth, 3-2, and the double over the Red Devils. It was not to be. Whereas our opponents this weekend, Aston Villa, are seeking Champions League qualification. They've already beaten Manchester City quite convincingly in one of the best performances I've seen in the Premier League this season. And last time out, they went to the Emirates and won 2-0 against the Gunners, really throwing the title race wide open. Now, I do have a very, very special guest for you today. Now, my special guest is a member of one of the top boy bands of the 90s. They sang multiple songs, including Keep On Movin, their first #1, also Slam Dunk the Funk, When the Lights Go Out, and even performed with Queen at the BRIT Awards, opening the ceremony. My special guest is an Aston Villa fan, and it is a pleasure to welcome on from Boy Band 5, Ritchie Neville. Welcome to the show, Ritchie. How are you doing, mate?
Very, very well, thank you. Can't complain. Nobody listens anyway.
Well, fantastic to have you on the show. And of course, what a result at the weekend against Arsenal.
Honestly, unbelievable. In the days leading in, I knew that we were going to be missing Douglas Luiz because of a red card. He's been integral in midfield. So I didn't really have my hopes up very high, to be honest with you. I thought, especially that we beat them at Villa Park, I thought, and they're so close to, at that time that, they were really in the title race. They still are, but I just thought they were going to bulldozer us, to be honest. I thought it was going to be it was a tough game, don't get me wrong, but yeah, absolutely delighted with the weekend. It was truly amazing. And I think, the fact I don't think they've got any injuries as well, and we do have a lot of players out. It's a testament, I think, more than anything, obviously the players, but to Unai Emery, to be honest, and what he brings tactically and just as a manager.
Yeah, he's done an absolutely fantastic job at Aston Villa, and I'm sure we'll come back to your recent form as well, and the possibility of getting in the Champions League, because as everyone will know, you were part of one of the biggest boy bands of the 90s, 5. And we will come back to discussing your career, but what was your earliest memories of becoming a Villa fan?
So I didn't have like a dad taking me to the footy or whatever. So I very early on, somebody in my family said, because in Birmingham, unless you're a Man U fan, you are Villa or Blues, Birmingham City. And it's kind of a constant thing within the family, the extended family. And yeah, somebody just said to me when I was about 2 or 3, you support Villa. I said, okay. And that was that. Yeah, so I didn't get to many games as a kid, and then I did get to a couple though. So I got taken to a couple by a friend's mom who knew Doug Ellis, and then then there was the days of like Tony Daly, and that sort of period when the Premier League kind of first started in the early 90s, I think.
Yeah.
And we were competing then. I remember one season we came second. I think Liverpool won.
Yeah.
We came second, and it was right to the last day, one of them, and we could have won it on the last day. So yeah, those are kind of my earlier memories of it.
You're quite pleased, though, that that person turned around and said, "You're Aston Villa, not Birmingham City."
I am pleased about that. Yeah, I am. Do you know what? It's funny because even just when you look at the two badges, I remember in the house there was like some shorts of Birmingham City or something like that, and I just, no offense to Blues fans, but I just used to look at the emblem with like the globe and the thing, and I just used to think that's rubbish. That I don't know. I just preferred the lion. Spoke
No,
to me more.
fair enough. I think you made the right decision there. Um, Apart from Tony Daly, who else was your heroes growing up, Richie?
Weirdly, I remember Nigel Spink in goal. And like, the winning the European Cup and that was a little bit before my time. I was only a toddler. But since then, obviously, you've got to have, your Morleys and your Peter Withs and whatnot in there. Remember the Aussie Bozzy? Goalies always seem to stand out. Dwight York.
Yep.
Daly and Atkinson.
Yes.
Obviously, you've got to say Paul McGrath as well. God.
Yeah.
I remember when Merce came, he was amazing. And I've since met Merce, actually. And, he said that Aston Villa was the only club he cried when he actually left. He just said that he just loved being at the Villa, and just enjoyed it that much. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we'll come on to your career and we'll come back to the game as well a little bit later on. But I understand you began singing from an early age. What were the early pre 5 years like?
So I grew up in the West Midlands. My parents owned a pub, so it was very sociable, really. It was very centered around the pub. So, Christmases were fun. Jukebox was playing all Christmas tunes and, yeah, very sociable and stuff like that. And like you say, yeah, I had a keen interest in, I actually wanted to be an actor. That was what I kind of wanted to do. But my mom and dad had been professional singers. That's how they met. So I guess you could say it's like in the blood in a way. And yeah, like singing was like kind of a hobby, and I was in like rock bands as teen and stuff, playing church halls and stuff like that. And then yeah, that was kind of how it went, really.
Was it always your genre of music, pop, or did you
No,
like all sorts of different musics?
no, like in like sort of pre 10 or 11,
Mhm.
yeah, it was pop. It was Michael
Yeah.
Jackson, Madonna, Prince, even like Bros when I was about 8 or something like that. I liked them. And then I remember being on a bus on a school trip, and somebody gave me their Walkman, and they were like, "Listen to this," and it was Nirvana, "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
Yeah.
and I can just remember like these emotions coursing through my body, and like never having heard anything like it. I just remember turning to them and going, "Rewind it, I've got to hear it again." And I was about 11 or 12 then, and yeah, it just blew my mind. I genuinely blew my little mind, and that was it. Then I was like all into grunge, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, and also dance music. So I used to enjoy house music and that vibe as well. Definitely a lot of underage clubbing
Fair enough.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't blame you whatsoever. Did you ever think of toying with the idea of becoming a footballer in your younger days?
No, because I didn't play it a lot as a kid. I was never even taught how to kick a ball. Like, I've spoken to people and they were like, "Oh, you never taught to properly kick a ball?" No, I'd have knockabouts right on the park and that, but I knew I was never going to be a footballer. Just wasn't good enough. It was simple. I enjoy the game. Like, I used to play rugby, and I enjoy playing rugby more because I'm kind of better at it. But to watch, I just don't think there is any better game than footy. Like, it's just the best game to watch by a million miles. I think, yeah, but I think if I was better at it, I'd probably enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think I missed my calling actually because I'd always want to be up front, but actually I think I'm more of a defender. Nail them.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, coming back to Five, how did the band form? How did you find the rest of the band when you first met?
So it was. I saw an article in the paper, and it was during Spice Mania. And I
Yes.
mean, that really was an absolute phenomenon at the time. You know, if you lived through the Spice Girls, you know what that was. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. And weirdly, I remember seeing them on like some Sunday morning show. I think it was like the Disney Club or something
Yeah.
with Wannabe. And I was about 14, 15. I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, these are terrible. They are going nowhere. And, you know, that shows how little I knew. And then they just blew up, and you got swept in the wave. You were like, even if you kind of didn't like it, you couldn't help but respect it.
Yeah.
And so there was an article then. They would become what they'd become, and there was an article in one of the newspapers saying, "Do you want to be a Spice Boy?" And I thought to myself, they can't be serious, man. Like, you know, I was about what 16, 17 maybe at the time, and yeah, I just thought, what a terrible idea, like, you know, awful. And it said, you know, anyone, it was saying that the people that have put the Spice Girls together have teamed up with Simon Cowell. He wasn't known at the time. And anyone interested, bring a backing track and your dancing shoes to London on Saturday at 10 o'clock, whatever. And I thought, oh, that's awful, and flicked past it. And then I kept going back and the cogs started moving. I was like, they probably won't call it the Spice Boys because that would be awful. Did it about 7 times, and then I just went and I showed mom. Like, I was like, "Mom, what do you think to that?" And she said, "Yeah, I did see that." I says, "Oh, I don't know." And she went, "Well, look, there's no harm in going." So yeah, just moseyed down and just like did my thing on the day. 3,000 guys attended, and you know, then we were sent off, and weeks went by, and they whittled those 3,000 down to 14 people. And then within 2 hours, we'd been put into the 5 of us. And that was it
Excellent.
on the day. We were told, like, you know, Simon Cowell came down. He was like, right, we want to sign you to RCA, you know, and move you into a house and get you cracking and recording.
Did you get on with the rest of the guys at first?
At first, yeah, we did really well.
Mhm.
It was like you felt like you'd won the lottery, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, there was one 15-year-old, 3 17-year-olds, and a 21-year-old.
Hmm.
4 of the 5 had never lived away from their parents. We'd all just been like picked from school, and we were moved into a house with no adult around. You know, it was dead exciting. It was just super exciting, and it was like the world was at your feet, and everything was fresh and new, and the possibilities were endless. And like I said, it really was like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really, really exciting. Yeah, to begin with.
Excellent stuff. Well, you released your first single, Slam Dunk the Funk, at the end of 1997, and that was followed by When the Lights Go Out shortly after.
Mm.
Both songs were big hits. How did your life change from that point?
Um, it was a it was a weird one. I remember being in like the van, you know, with being like a people carrier, and it was like you'd be at traffic lights, and maybe you were sat in the front, so you'd have like the window down, and it'd stop, you know, in London, and somebody'd go, "All right, Richie," and you'd be like, "Do I know you?" And you'd be like, "How does he know my name?" Um, you know, and you'd know, you knew you'd done a couple of magazine interviews and a bit of this and a bit of that. And then we'd all be like, are we famous now? Like, what? I remember conversations going on, and then there came a point where you couldn't go in a shopping mall.
Mhm.
Like, you'd walk into a shopping mall and there'd be screams, and then you'd be surrounded, and it was, you know, quite intense. And that was fun at 17. for about 6 months, it was kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
wow. You know, and you know, you did enjoy that. And then it sort of became like a bit of a, oh, I can't be doing with going shopping. Do you know what I mean? Oh, it's a bit intense. Do you know what I mean? It became sort
Yeah.
of, you know, you know, and it was pre-internet days, so it's not like you could, you know, like Christmas shopping, for instance, when you've only got half a day,
Yeah.
it actually became quite a stress. It was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Yeah, so yeah, it was sort of an interesting thing. But yeah, Fame was fun for about 6 months.
Fair enough. After that, was it sometimes a bit difficult? You know,
Yeah,
like you say, going out, and I bet it was quite intense because you was quite a young man at that time, and the rest of the guys were quite young.
yeah.
Was it quite intense?
It was extremely intense. You know, added on to, we came from a generation of bands, and it wasn't just our bands. I think it was
Yeah.
every successful band were worked like no human being should work. I mean,
Mhm.
18-hour days. There was no union or anything saying what, oh, that's a bit too much. And you kind of felt like you had to accept it. You know, and you were pushed by a corporation, 2 days off a year, 18-hour days, flying to different continents. And it sounds like fun. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool things, but it was, well, it eventually was our downfall. It eventually pushed people to have, you know, nervous breakdowns, and
Mhm.
if that's what they call it these days, or do you know what I mean? An emotional
Yeah.
breakdown that, you know, it was just too much, that we kind of ended up not enjoying it anymore at all.
No, fair enough. Now, I have read the story, Richie, and I don't know how true this is,
Yeah.
but Five were meant to have the song "Hit Me Baby One More Time" rather than Britney Spears, and that you'd prepped lines and lyrics for the song. Is that true or is that rubbish?
There's an element of truth, but not quite true in what you're saying. So what happened was, I think, you know, how it works behind the scenes a lot of the
Mhm.
time is like Max Martin, who wrote the song,
Yeah.
and he's a bit of a famous name himself now. He was massive. You know, he'd had success with us, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, you name it, and massive pop producer writer, had this song on the rounds, going around labels and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And Simon Cowell heard it and went, "I want that for Five." And he offered him, he said, "Look, Max, you know, really want that song." And he said, "Ah, sorry, Simon, we've already promised it." "Well, who have you promised it to?" He says, "Well, it's this unknown American girl on like Jive Records."
Mhm.
And he's like, "Jive Records, we're RCA. We've got a band that, you know, have already sold millions, and you know, it's a definite hit." Like,
Yeah.
so, and he went, "Yeah, we've already promised it her. Like, the contracts are done." So then apparently Simon like offered him like the newest, craziest Mercedes and everything to try and get the song, because he knew it was a smash hit, whoever did it. But Max wouldn't budge on it. And the rest is history, as they say, you know, because that was the birth of, you know, what is legendary now, you know, Britney Spears, "Hit Me Baby One More Time."
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you disappointed that you didn't get that song?
No, I believe in fate. I believe things are meant to be. And that was definitely meant to be Britney's song, you know. It was her song. I'm not bothered. I mean, you know, we had a lot to do with the writing as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, we kind of weren't at a stage where we would take songs anyway that often.
Yeah.
We'd get in and write them. So yeah,
Well, the second album, Invincible, was released in 1999, with If You're Getting Down coming out first, with Keep On Moving coming out in October. And that was your first number one.
mm,
You'd released hit after hit after hit, but you hadn't reached that top position. What
yeah.
was it like when you finally did it?
It was, well, prior to that, we were actually getting really annoyed with the label, because obviously the label picks
Mhm.
the release week,
Yeah.
and we knew by the numbers we'd sell on week one, there were bands and artists that were selling nowhere near that, tens of thousands less than going number one. But if you go number one, you get the kudos of going number one. And we had like 4 or 5 number twos. And we were like, look, what are you doing? You know, it's important. You know, we could have had, you know, I would say 8 or 9, maybe 7 to 9 number ones.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for the label, and yeah, we even like sort of had a bit of a downer when, believe it or not, when everybody get up charted at number 2.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, we're done. That's it. We haven't number one with this. Yeah, and we were proper on a downer going number 2, which is ridiculous. But I mean, it's a high pressure game that you're playing. And you see bands, you know, getting ditched for number 3s and number 5s and stuff. So we were like, oh, it's dicey here. And yeah, so to finally go number 1, especially like they always say, the second album's the difficult one for any band.
Yeah.
If you've had a hit album, the second album is like make or break. So yeah, to smash it out the ballpark with Keep On Moving was just like finally, you know, we've done it finally. So it was a big relief, yeah.
Do you know what? It's quite funny you say about the Nirvana song and wanting to listen to it over and over again. Because the first time I heard Keep On Moving, I was on a flight back from Gran Canaria, being on holiday, and the actual radio station, you know, you got those plug-in radios on flights, and it was stuck on repeat. So it went through about 10 minutes. And of course, it started 10 minutes and then it went straight back over. But on that first segment was Keep On Moving. So I heard that song, you know, a good 20 times. Absolutely love that song. Absolutely love that song. So yeah, I heard it about 20 times.
Brilliant.
Literally that October. So yeah, I did purchase it as well. So
you did purchase it?
Yes, I did make sure I purchased it as well. So don't worry. But I do have a question from Matt here, who is the co-host on this channel. He's a massive.
Well, where is he?
I know. He's at work, unfortunately.
Is he? Right,
yeah,
okay.
he's at work. So I'm sure he'll be delighted that I'm asking this question. But he's a massive Queen fan.
Oh right, okay.
And what was it like to work with rock royalty in the likes of Brian May and Roger Taylor when you re-recorded "We Will Rock You" and also performed on the stage with them at the 2000 Brit Awards?
Yeah. Anything that we did with Queen, I mean, vaguely, I don't remember the moment, but I remember it was an almost pinch yourself moment. It's like, what? We're going to do, you know, we've spoken to Queen's people and we're going to release "We Will Rock You" with Queen. And by the way, Rich, you're going to sing the lead. That was a daunting moment. Like, I'm both happy and absolutely, you know, completely shitting myself about that. But yeah, it was, like I say, a pinch yourself moment. And then even just I don't remember the first time we actually met them, but it was, you know, I mean, like I said, growing up in the pub and stuff, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody was a massive regular on the jukebox and stuff.
Yeah.
And that iconic video with the, you know, where they've all got their heads up to the light and there's the 4 of them and stuff. And, you know, it was just like, what? Like Brian May and Roger Taylor. And yeah, you know, that was some of the best memories. And actually my favorite memory in music was just jamming Hey Joe, me, Roger and Bri singing the opening line and them just kicking in. And opening the Brits was just, he stood with Brian May in the rigging, opening the Brit Awards, you know, when the Brit Awards was like really exciting as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, with like whatever, 100 Japanese drummers. And it's like, rock on, Ritchie. Yeah, rock on, Bri. Just amazing, yeah. Amazing memories.
Yeah, I've seen that performance recently as well. Had to watch it back, and it is on YouTube as well. So everybody go and check that out. But you also performed at Rocket in Rio the following year. And what was that experience like? Because I understand that was quite a fun time.
It was fun because, like I said, we were worked. Like we always felt like we couldn't enjoy our success because we were somewhere else, or we were just working so hard that you were just so tired. And on the flight over, we had a little conversation because what we were doing was going 5 days before, and then it was all, the labels like, yeah, we need to maximize press and we need to do this and that and da, da, da. It's really important. It's really important. And we were like, we're going to Rio and we've got 18-hour days, and then we're going to do the show, and then we're going to do one, as always. And then we were like, well, am I all right to swear?
Go for it. Go for it.
And we were like, well, they can't like make us fucking do it, can they? And we're like, well, what are we saying here? We're just going to go and like flatly refuse and have a 5-day holiday? Yeah. We're like, because we were like, this shit is going to hit the fan so bad. But we landed and they were like, right, guys, we need to go through the schedules and da 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 da. And we were like, well, actually, we need to talk to you about something. They're like, right, okay. And we got to a point where we were successful enough that we were like, do you know what? No more. So we were like, well, this is how it's. They were like, no, we need to tell you how it's going to fly. We're like, no, we need to tell you how it's going to fly. They're like, well, what do you mean? We were like, well, we've decided we're going to have a 5-day holiday, get really pissed, have a really good time, and then play the show. And they're like, what? You can't do that. And we're like, we're doing it. That's what we're doing. And they went off. And they must have gone, they're really serious about this. But they came back and they were like, okay, look, there's 3 things that we just cannot cancel. Would you agree to just do them? And we were like, all right, we'll do those 3 things. Fine. When's that? So it's like tomorrow night in the morning and blah. Yeah, all right. And we were playing the same year as Oasis, Guns N' Roses. We were in the same hotel as Oasis. So yeah, we just sat around the pool drinking beer with Liam Gallagher and just got absolutely smashed, and had one of the best times actually ever on the lead up. And I don't really remember the show that much, other than the crowd just being mind-blowingly massive. It was like 200 or 250,000 people, biggest crowd we've ever played. Huge, as far as the eye could see, in every direction, like a sea of people. Yeah, crazy.
I bet it was so nice to be able to let your hair down and enjoy it for a bit.
Yeah, it was amazing. Honestly, it was also the rebellion of it all. Like, yeah, it was nice. It was fun, that.
Yeah, don't blame you at all. Well, you released your 3rd album in 2001 with a 3rd number 1, Let's Dance, kicking it off. But it was a tough year for the band, resulting in 5 disbanding later in the year. Did you envisage it being a permanent split or just a temporary thing?
No, it was a permanent split once we decided. We and obviously we'd made the album. Obviously the label had put a lot of money into the album.
Yeah.
So it did not go down very well at all. But, look, we just started the promotion for Let's Dance. And I was paired up with Sean to do an interview. We were at a photo shoot, and I sat down with Sean, and the journo asked, how are you guys doing? And nobody's interested, even if you're having a shit one. Nobody cares. You've just got, yeah, really buzzing, blah, blah, blah. Sean just, I don't know, he just sat there going, oh, yeah, I'm so good. And he just kept repeating it. And I was like, well, and he just got up and left. I thought maybe he's gone to the loo, whatever. So I finished the interview. Half an hour later, came out, went to the tour manager. Where's Sean? Like, what, is he all right? And he just went, he's in the van. He's got to go home. And that was the last time I saw Sean for months. He was taken home, and we were specifically told not to call him. He's requested some space. He wants some time. Do not call him. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the end, really. I don't think Sean ever came back. He didn't ever come back, and that's why he was a cardboard cutout in the video for Let's Dance.
Yeah.
And we were told by the label, look, he will come back. But obviously, because there was a lot of stigma in those days about mental health and things like that. So it was like a protection thing as well as like a thing to say. They were like, just say he's got glandular fever, because that way it gets away from the mental health aspect of it. And, it's also something that is an indeterminate amount of time. You can have glandular fever for a year or whatever. So, that was like the party line, if you like. And it was, that was the beginning of the end. Then we carried on, and then Scott kind of had a bit of a breakdown as well. And I just remembered we were sat, Scott was like, really, really having a bad one. And we were sat, me and Jay, off opposite sides with our arm around him in a hotel corridor. And we just looked at each other and we were like, stunning it. No amount of number ones is worth people genuinely cracking up and breaking. And that's where we were at. There was 2 people actually breaking. We'd done like nearly 5 years of it. And like I said, it had started off as this winning the lottery dream-like thing. And it had, quite honestly, as much as there were some amazing moments, for the most part, it become like a prison, and like just something that, a nightmare, become a nightmare. And I think, we were 21, 22, and we were just like, I just want to be free of it. I just want to be free of this thing. As mad as that sounds, I'm sure a lot of people are like, wow, that's everybody's dream. And that's another thing that makes it so hard, because you're like, nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. You're like, it was definitely a permanent thing. It was, we were told, go and have 2 weeks off, really think about it, and then come back. And if you still feel that way, there's nothing we can do. We went away and sort of thought about it for 2 weeks. But, in that 2 weeks, it wasn't just our own thing. It was considering Scott and Sean's mind state and where they're at. And in hindsight, maybe we should have had 6 months off and postponed the album. But it just didn't seem an option at the time. I mean, maybe it just didn't seem like an option at the time. It was like, no, crap, keep going. And we'd also always said, from the word go, we were like, look, we knew we'd make it. We just knew we'd make it. I don't know. That was not making it was never an option. And then we quickly realized that we were like slightly different to the other boy bands and pop acts at the time, and the audience, it was connecting with the audience when we played. And it was like, okay, this feels like it's going to fly. And we said, look, let's not ever be that band that milks it till they're failing and they're like going down. Let's jump off at the top. So, we'd just gone number 1. We were like, just something felt right about it. It was like, yeah, we always said we'd do this. The last thing that we're ever going to do is a number 1 now. So, yeah, it felt permanent.
Whilst you were in 5, did you manage to get to many Aston Villa games?
I got to a couple, but not that many. No, weekends are usually a working time in my work.
Yeah, no, fair enough. You did reform twice, once in 2006 and then again in 2012.
Yeah.
What was different the second time around?
The second time, I don't think, I don't know. A couple of us had this thing where, we weren't pop heads. So we were delusional in the second coming, because we were like, we're not going to play any of the old hits. We're going to do this like really heavy Linkin Park vibe thing. I mean, it was just ridiculous. In hindsight, it was ridiculous. We weren't embracing what we were before and everything. It was just crazy. I don't think we were, still not particularly well in the head, to be honest with you. And then, then it just seemed like a distant memory, and something that was very much put to bed. After that, it was like, no, that is just in the past. And I'd felt like at the time I wanted to be free of living the ghost of Rich from Five and Five. And everywhere you go, people go, "Oh my God, you're Rich from Five." You go, "Yeah, I am. I really wish I could turn this off now. It's been 10 years." And then the big reunion sort of was being spoken about behind the
Yeah.
scenes and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, for God's sake, like, is this ever gonna like go away?" And yeah, and then I decided to do it. And it was like a strange process, like, while they were filming and you're getting in the rehearsal studios and you're sort of like, "Oh, right, this is gonna be weird." And then you were like, "Something feels quite nice about this." Now I get on up. And then you go out and play arenas and you see like the reaction to the audience and you're like, "This isn't so bad. Why have I been running from this?" And then it was a case of like, do you know what? This isn't going away. It's not going away. And I guess like maybe you just accept that what you've done has been too successful to ever go away. It's always going to be. So you know what? It's almost like if you can't beat and join them, and if you can't escape it, you might as well embrace it.
Yes.
Sort of like, okay, right, fine. I am Rich from Five. We are Five. Let's just go out and smash it and have fun with it, enjoy it, embrace it, and that's very much what it's been for over a decade now.
And if I remember correctly, you did a couple of tours with A1 Damage, 911, and also did you also support McBusted on their tour as well?
I don't know whether we supported them on a tour. We did a gig with them. I
Yeah.
don't know whether it was McBusted or whatever, but yeah, we did do a show with them.
Mhm.
We've done our own tours. We've done tours with those guys. We just did a tour in Australia and New Zealand. And it just, we've done like loads of festivals all over the world. Where were we last summer? I can't even remember. I think it was Denmark. And then this summer we're doing a Norway tour.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And it's honestly I feel so privileged to be able to do what I do.
Yeah.
During the week I get to be like a dad to my daughter. I do the school runs and all that kind of stuff. She's with me 50-50 with her mom. And that's honestly a privilege. I love being a dad. And then of a weekend I pack my pop star clothes and go off and play these like festivals around the world and then come home and be dad again. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you've also teamed up with Liam Keegan and released the first song under your new project, the 998, called
Yeah.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the track, by the way, and
Oh,
I
thank
was
you.
one of the first followers as well.
Lovely.
What does the future hold, and how did you first team up?
We actually did a song called "Not Coming Home"
Hmm.
a few years ago, and then we sort of we didn't have contact for a couple of years, and that was the COVID years as well.
Yeah.
And then as COVID was coming out, he messaged and he was like, "Mate, do you want to make another tune?" And yeah, it just sort of went from there. And Liam's now a mate of mine, and yeah, we will make other tunes. Like we enjoy each other's company, so like writing a tune is a good excuse to catch up as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do a lot of nattering and chatting, and yeah, he's a top lad. He really is. So yeah, I mean, during COVID, just to keep sane, really, I just really went on this production mission. I was like, right, how can I turn? I always try to turn a loss into a win
Yeah.
wherever possible. Like when I had a house fire, I was like, right, renovating the lot.
Hmm.
We're going to move into a brand new house because it was always a renovation project anyway. I had
Yeah.
like a peach coloured corner bath with white taps, stuff like that. I was like, right, because we had a house that the insurance were paying for. So I was like, right, that's it. Now's the time. I'm going at it full on. So yeah, during COVID, I was like, right, okay. Didn't know it was going to be 2 years, but I was like, I can't sit here. I'm just going bananas. So I was like, right, I'm going to get Logic up and like really just start tweaking the buttons myself and yeah, so that is very much a part of my life now, like producing and creating, and yeah, so there'll be lots of different projects coming along and stuff like that. Yeah,
I've got to say, I absolutely love the studio. Absolutely love the studio that you sat in. Looks, and I tell you what, the neon lights as well, absolutely brilliant behind you.
yeah, you've got to have the neon lights. Like normally when I'm not podcasting, I have the curtains drawn, the neon lights, and it's perpetual darkness. I'm not sure it's very good for your health, but yeah, perpetual darkness to get you in the zone at 11 a.m. You know.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Well, we did mention earlier on about Aston Villa
Yeah,
and the absolutely fantastic season that Villa are having.
yeah,
Of course, you are in fourth spot at the moment. Spurs have got a game in hand,
yeah,
but you've got a better goal difference. How keen are you to stay fourth rather than fifth? Mind the pun.
yeah, yeah. Like it, like it. See what you did there.
Yeah.
Fifth at this stage, you know, it's the
Yeah.
first time I'm really, really starting to believe that it's, you know, I think complacency,
Mhm.
you know, at the end of the day, that's almost the same squad
Yeah.
were battling, you know, in relegation spots under Gerard.
Yeah.
So it's sort of been a like, well, is this real? And then, you know, you see the stats since Unai came along, and you go a year later and you're like, well, if that was the case, we'd be second in the league and things like that. And you're like, hang on, no, that it really is like becoming possible now. It's within grasp, and fifth place isn't guaranteed Champions League. And I have to be honest, at this stage, I would be disappointed if we didn't make Champions League. That would feel like a failure now. And I mean, it's honestly dreamland to even those words coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
To even think that Villa can be back in the Champions League, and you know, with that, even that financial kicker as well. You know, being able to invest in the squad and like making financial fair play an easier thing, and it's truly dreamland. So yeah, fourth spot. Yeah, they've got a game in hand, but it is the North London derby,
Yeah.
and I think after last weekend and what we've just done to them, they're going to go out guns blazing. So I wouldn't like to be Spurs on the weekend,
Hmm.
because they're going to be a wounded animal coming out and wanting to prove it was a blip and not a trajectory. So, but again, it's a derby, so anything can happen. But yeah, I think at this stage of the game, with such few games to go, fourth spot is as to lose now,
Yeah.
which is pressure, you know, time as well.
Well, you mentioned there under Steven Gerrard, you was
Mm,
fighting relegation, and you come down to Dean Court for our first game back in the Premier League. We
mm.
did win the game
Yeah,
2-0, and
yeah,
to
yeah,
be honest, Villa were poor that day.
yeah. We were terrible.
But the turnaround has been unbelievable with,
Mm.
like you say, the same set of players. What has Unai Emery done differently to what Steven Gerrard was doing?
I mean,
Put you on the
um,
spot here, Richie.
well, it's night and day. I
Hmm.
mean, look, I've got so much respect for Gerard as a
Yeah.
player and as a captain.
Hmm.
I really do. I mean, he was a man. He was Roy of the Rovers at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and there's no taking away from that. I was dubious about the appointment in the beginning,
Hmm.
although I thought, well, someone like that must have something about them. And obviously, he was captain, so you start going, well, but you know, it just seemed like he was trying the same tactics every week. It wasn't working, wasn't changing it up. And it was sort of this mentality of like, well, I need those players to just look me in the eyes and give me a performance. And at the time I thought, well, maybe he's right. You know, maybe they're not like the players that, you know, and that can do that. But since Unai came along, he's just shown what the difference a manager can make. because he's turned this, almost the same set of players into Champions League contenders. And I mean, they're technical now. So they're set up, when we play well. Like you say, we do have off days. And that's when when you feel like a Villa supporter again. Here we go. Who are these people? But he sets up. He's organised. He's the best manager that I can remember. Watching Villa, and I really hope we can keep hold of him, keep hold of the players. I think if we do, in a few years, there's every chance we could potentially, perpetually be in the Champions League and be battling top six.
Well, one of the games that I watched, and it was around December, was the game against Manchester City at Villa Park,
Yeah,
where has got to be one of the best performances from a team that I have seen. You were all over Manchester City. It wasn't
yeah,
Man City played badly; it was
no,
Aston Villa played so well. Um, of course, Unai Emery is a Basque manager. We've got a Basque manager. Do you think that the styles are quite similar? And do you think that Iraola, will get potentially to that sort of level where Unai Emery is at the moment?
I'm not an expert in your manager. I've got to be
Yeah,
honest, but I do think that there seems to be something a bit special comes out of Spain, but especially the
yeah,
Basque region,
yeah,
and there is a style about it. I wouldn't want to see, I want to see Bournemouth do well, clubs like Bournemouth
yeah,
and everything, because it's what makes the Prem exciting. If the
mhm,
same teams every year, all right, United maybe not so much this season, but United's and Liverpool's and Chelsea and everything. It's boring. It's
yeah,
boring. Um, that's why this season, even at the top of the league, it's nice to see a 3-horse race for
mhm,
the top spot rather than City 10 points clear and looking like winning. So yeah, I hope so. And I hope the little guys like ourselves take some scalps and keep doing that, and it remains competitive in the Premiership. So I hope so, just not Sunday.
yeah. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. You do have probably one of the best goalkeepers, if not the best goalkeeper in the world as well, in Emi Martinez.
Yeah,
How pivotal has he been?
he's unbelievable. He really is. Some of the saves he pulls off are ridiculous. Um, and I get that other teams don't like him, and I understand why. But when you're a Villa fan and he's just mind gaming
Yeah,
penalty takers and stuff like that, you're like, oh, he's at it again. He's really really um, uh, he's learnt the art of unagi, of mind games. He really knows how to get into people's heads, and I just find the whole thing very entertaining
yeah.
when he's doing it. So yeah, it is very funny, and I am really glad we've got Martinez between the sticks, because I think it's underplayed how important it is. I think that we would seriously suffer if we lost Martinez,
Hmm.
and unless we got some kind of amazing appointment between the sticks. A team is built on 11 players, and he is very important to us.
Well, one thing that is being mentioned, and I've been a little bit on my soapbox about this, with regards to other teams. Of course, Everton have suffered because of this, Nottingham Forest. There is talk that Aston Villa might have to sell some players in the summer to meet the PSR regulations, so profit and sustainability rules.
Right.
I am completely against this because what it is stopping is other teams being competitive with the top six.
Yeah.
Is the Champions League qualification pretty much essential now to make sure that you can keep that core player?
Yeah, I would say it's very important. As much income as possible for clubs.
Yeah,
Because that players are so I mean, it's ridiculous how expensive players are. But I'm sure they've been saying that you know, and they have been for 30, 40 years, and every year the price goes up. But yeah, look, I've heard, and I don't know, but I've heard, and I could be wrong, but the FFP was brought in Italy by Berlusconi, who was the president or prime minister of Italy. But he also owned AC Milan, and he just made a massive investment into AC Milan. And it was actually they made it sound like, yeah, it's sustainability, it's all that kind of thing. But actually, it was to keep the big clubs, and not let any other clubs come up and have a go. And it does seem unfair. It does seem unfair. But then, you know, flip it around. You look at, you know, would that then untether City that, you know, they'd never ever be, you know, got so much money that, you know, no team would ever be able to keep up. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it does seem unfair. Maybe you should be able to fly a little bit on the edge because, you know, and then pull it back or something. I don't know, but something tells me that won't transpire.
To be honest, completely agree with everything you've said there. And, you know, it seems to be, for me, that the top six are trying to keep it the top six.
Yeah.
Because and look at the Everton Forest, you know, they've got points deductions. Are they really going to give points deductions to Man City and Chelsea and lose?
Okay, and I also get that it's like 115, is it, cases, and that takes a lot longer to look at, and they have to look at it completely, you know, with a fine-tooth comb and everything. I totally understand that, but it seems odd that they get docked the points almost immediately within reason, and yet the Chelsea and the City ones are ongoing. You know, it seems very odd indeed. And you know, something smells a little bit there. So yeah, it is very, very strange. I don't know. Time will tell, won't it? I guess.
Yeah. Well, of course, we've got this game on the weekend, on Sunday.
Yeah.
Leon Bailey and, of course, Ollie Watkins are on fire at the moment. How do AFC Bournemouth keep them quiet?
Definitely something in your advantage for the weekend is we're coming off playing Lille, which I've still got I took my daughter to it. Hang on, there,
excellent.
Look. The first leg at Villa Park. So we'll have played Lille, then away to Arsenal, then Lille again away on the Thursday. So, you know, that's going to be tired legs for sure. Which definitely I think is an advantage. As for keeping them quiet, I think if they're on fire, that's hard. I think it's going to be hard. One thing I have noticed is teams that genuinely park the bus, we struggle with more. We seem to play better against teams that come out and attack.
Yeah.
So that might be a you know, an option. You know, really park the bus and just keep 11 men back and then go on the counter. Yeah, seems a decent tactic against us. But yeah, look, Villa Park with the Champions League spot there, I'd like to think Villa will come out and just play with heart and everything they've got. You know, every game's a cup, you know, final now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we shall see. But you've done it once this season, so there's no reason why you can't do it again.
That was a really, really good performance again. And, you know, I think what was so satisfying about that was that Villa played so well, and we seemed to match you. But again, it felt like two managers that knew each other quite well, because they do know each other quite well, you know, competing against each other and those contrasting styles. So, yeah, it will be very, very interesting this weekend. I know you mentioned there the Europa Conference League. Can you win it, Ritchie?
Absolutely. There's no reason. I'm not saying we definitely will, because I just think anything can happen in football. But I think we definitely are in with a good shout, especially if we can do the business this week. Yeah, no reason why we can't win it.
Well, fingers crossed for you. But of course, we do have the game on Sunday. I'll ask all of my guests this. How do you reckon it's going to go?
I'm gonna have to be confident. It's at Villa Park, and I'm gonna go. Are you asking me for a score, or are you just asking me? I think
Yeah, go for a score. Go for
I
a
would
score.
like to say it's going to be a Villa win, but a tough game, 2-1.
2-1. Do you
Yeah,
know what? I think I will echo that. And to be honest, that was the score I was going for. Of course, you beat us last season at Villa Park 3-0. It was coming to the end of the season. I think we might have been a little bit on the beach at that time.
right.
But, you know, personally, I think it's going to be a bit more competitive this year with
Yeah.
Iraola in charge. But I still think you'll get yourselves across the line, and I think you'll get Champions League qualification. Well, I
Oh,
hope so anyway, mate. I hope so. It'll be like you say. I want Villa to do it because the same sides in Europe every single season is boring,
yeah,
and also it breaks that top six. That's what we want: is
yeah,
football to the top six to be broken, really.
yeah, absolutely, definitely, and just shake things up a bit. Definitely, it'd be just interesting, won't it, to see? I mean, just be so weird, Welcome to the Champions League, Aston Villa versus Bayern Munich. Like, what? Awesome, amazing.
Do you know what? Would love to see it. Would love to see it. But Richie, thank you so much for coming on. All the
No,
very,
pleasure,
very
mate.
best.
Thanks for having me. Up the cherries, and yeah, good luck, guys, all of you, and thanks for having me. It's been a great
Not a
chatting.
problem at all. My pleasure. Thank you
Cheers,
so
mate.
much.
Nice
Cheers,
one, bud.
mate. Thanks,
Bye.
Em. And thank you everybody for joining us on this show. Remember, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button. It helps this channel to grow. That rhymes, see? Also, do check out our recent interviews. We've had Damon Minchella from Ocean Colour Scene on, Peter Hooton from The Farm, Gaz Whelan from The Happy Mondays. We've had Nick Owen, BBC presenter. We've even had Professor Brian Cox on the show. And yeah, Harry's been on quite a few times as well. So do go and check out all of our interviews. We're going to have loads more content coming for you. So please do hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button and let us know your score prediction below. Until the next show, up the cherries, and thank you for joining us.